Hey, welcome back to the State of Love and Trust. It's episode 300, if you can believe it. And we are so excited to celebrate with two amazing musicians in Mark Menghi and William DuVall. You know Mark from King Ultramega, Metal Allegiance. You know William from Comes With the Fall, Alice in Chains, and now Metal Allegiance as well. And we're going to have a great conversation here about the songwriting process, those two songs they both worked on together, and we go deep into collaborations and chemistry, and how about the organism that is the give and take between the fans and the musicians on stage in the live experience. It is such a great conversation, guys. I'm going to shut up, and let's get on with it.
Hi, I'm Mark Menghi from Metal Allegiance.
And I am William DuVall of Alice in Chains, and this is the State of Love and Trust podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the State of Love and Trust podcast. I'm one of your two hosts, Jason Kerepesi, and alongside me, as always, is
Paul Ghiglieri. Jason, episode 300. Let's kick the tires and light the fires, my man.
Man, you're stealing my Kool-Aid. It's okay. It's okay. It's our Kool-Aid.
It is our Kool-Aid.
We stir it together. If you're sitting here on YouTube with us, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe to the channel, please. That would be very helpful. And hit the bell for notifications if you would like. And if you're listening only, Paul?
Feed that algorithm. Feed it because we need it. And you can do that by rating, reviewing, and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Please feed it. It will take you on a trip to Mars, which is where we're about to go with our guests today.
We are very excited to have Mark Menghi and William DuVall on the show to celebrate that 300 episode milestone. If you don't know already, they were both on the King Ultramega track, Rusty Cage. That was the first release by King Ultramega, a big, great celebration of Chris Cornell's catalog, and the most recent Metal Allegiance song called Black Horizon. We're going to get into both of those songs, but we've got an even deeper dive, Paul, into the songwriting process and some really great takes on live music. Oh my goodness.
Dude, it's like a TED Talk. You guys are going to love it.
So here we go, episode 300 with Mark Menghi and William DuVall. Mark Menghi has built a reputation as a master collaborator in heavy music, bringing together elite players through projects like Metal Allegiance and King Ultramega. William DuVall is one of rock's most distinctive voices, known for his work with Alice in Chains, Comes With the Fall, and a career that spans punk, hard rock, and deeply personal solo material. Together, they represent two sides of the same creative equation, collaboration and authenticity in modern rock. Please welcome back to the show, Mark Menghi and his maiden voyage, William DuVall.
Right on.
Fuck, man. That was a fucking spiel and a half, dude.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice.
You got to spin a yarn sometimes, Mark.
Yeah,
Wow.
He was in the mirror for about an hour just method acting that.
Hey,
Really,
it was concise but informative, and wow, yeah.
you got to try to hit all the notes to really, I don't have to tell you that. So we are obviously going to talk about the two songs you guys collaborated on in a second because they're both killer tracks. But music, good music, doesn't just happen. I think anyone talented enough, they can create music together. But the good stuff needs to have two things between the players. And I think that's chemistry and trust. And both of you, I want to tell us how you came to find the chemistry and trust needed to work on these two releases, Black Horizon and Rusty Cage.
Wow. Me and William's eyes both are like, whoa.
Bring in the Thunder Boys.
Whoa.
It's like, little known secret, we don't trust each other at all.
I'll let William take this one.
Oh man, I think well, for me, the proof was already in the track, the recorded musical track, right? So I mean, I had the good fortune of just kind of being handed something that was musically speaking pretty fully realized, with Rusty Cage. Bill from Mastodon got in contact with me, and he just sent it over, and it was like, oh, okay, all right. So all I have to do is my part, simpler than it is easy, but still, it's like, hey, this music's here, and same with when Mark sent over the track that became Black Horizon. It was like, well, God, this is what it is. I have no notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Mark,
like,
is that the first time anyone's ever said that to you?
No, no. Well,
that's good.
With Metal Allegiance, I've written all the lyrics or co-written all the lyrics for MA. So for me, it was awesome. It was like, fuck yeah, man, I don't have to do any of this. And knowing William and his
you got to be a leader to guide these ruffians, right?
Right. And I said everything I needed to say in that world, right? So it was time for me to kind of, here you go, dude, have fun.
right to this. You know what I mean? Like
it was.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because that song was written, Alex and I wrote that song in his apartment in Brooklyn. I'll never forget that day. It was New Year's Day, January 1st. It was just me and him. It was snowing out. It's always snowing here apparently. But we wrote that, and we wrote 2 songs that day. This was the first one, and on my notes, it just said MA Song 1. And it sat. And we recorded it. We flushed it out. We went to Portnoy's house. Mike really helped guide us in arranging the song. And, why don't you think about a part like this?
It has a bit of a dream theater architecture to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's the mad scientist where he arranges everything we do. We'll come out, I'll go to Alex with a song that's 80% complete, and then it'll turn into like a 50-50 collab. Vice versa. It's just, we're all open to critique, change, whatever that might be. But with this particular song, it just organically, we wrote it out of the blue. We brought it to Mike, we arranged it, we finished the song the next day. And then it sat for a little bit because, at least for me, being lyricist, I couldn't find a voice for the song that I was hearing in my head. Fast forward, we revisited the song. It's like, let's get this out. Let's release it. It's a cool track, but again, it was who's going to sing on it. And then in my truck driving one day, an Alice song came on that William was on, and I was like, that's it. There he is. And then, it was like fucking light bulb. And, I hit up William and I was like, hey man, it was just really that.
What you up to?
It was like, we have this tune. We're working on this. We'd love to release this. I hear your voice on it. I actually heard him and Troy from Mastodon. William, if you remember. I think I put it out to both you and Troy.
Yeah.
But Troy, I've known Troy he's like a brother, right? And but he had some stuff going on around that time, and then William took the reins, ran with it, and fortunately he did, and you have Black Horizon. That's kind of how it happened, pretty organically, pretty seamless. It was take the lyric, we say whatever you need to say whatever you want to say, whatever the music's telling you, right to that, and he came up with an amazing story. I'm into the whole sci-fi thing too, so when he told me about the original synopsis of the song, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. And me and both of my kids, we're all like kind of quote unquote Star Wars nerds. I was like, hey, check this out, man. And it was cool, man. And even just looking back at it, it's been a few months now, and looking back at what we created, I couldn't imagine this song any other way.
When you think of that chemistry, the two of you, do you think it's like more about musical taste, personality, just shared life experiences, all the above? Like,
I mean, it's just I think musicians of all types at a certain level of longevity and experience in the game kind of have some sort of a common language, right? I mean, regardless of genre, regardless of all these other things that, can turn into barriers of communication. I think the longer you do it, the more you see the commonality of all of it. You know what I mean? And so with this, it was sort of just, you know, and all of us, particularly those of us that came up with any kind of a love and affection for rock and hard rock, you know, and all the different offshoots of that. We even have more commonality. And so, you know, he sent me that music, and really almost immediately I had the title and kind of a basic narrative, you know. I don't know. I remember texting right back too, like kind of like right away. It's like, Black Horizon. Yeah, go. You know what I mean? First civilian trip to Mars, Black Horizon, go. You know what I mean? And that was when Troy was also on there was that first couple of messages back and forth, and Troy was still on that thread, and so I was kind of just, when I first sent that message, like, Black Horizon, first trip to Mars, it was kind of just like, here's a direction, whatever you guys end up doing, you know what I mean? Like, here's an idea, right? And then like Mark said earlier, Troy ended up bowing out, and so then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to kind of flesh this story out, you know, and just. And that took a little bit more time, kind of the details, because that music moves across a lot of different landscapes. There's a lot of mood swings and tempo changes, and you know, there's just a lot of there are places where there's a lot of musical information coming at you, and so I just kind of had to put on the actor hat a little bit, and you know, it's like, well, I'm going to write the role, and then I'm going to perform the role, you know. And so the role is I'm a regular guy on this ship, and you know, maybe something really bad happened on our home planet. I'm here with my family. There's other families on here. We were forced into a weird situation, and here we are hurtling through space, hoping for whatever's going to be on the other side, that it's okay, that it's safe. We don't know, but just the journey itself is perilous, right? So there's that whole thing of like, maybe you're like a dad, you know, trapped in a situation where your job is to be the one that keeps everyone safe, but you yourself are in this situation that you can't control. And so that's kind of why, and I kind of just inhabited that's, you know, that place and went with it, you know. And
how much of reality, our current reality, do you think seeped in? Because that's a very, I mean, we obviously like the Pearl Jam here, and there's a song called "Quick Escape" off of Gigaton that they put out a few years ago about literally shit's going haywire. We might have to escape and find a new place to live. And so when I was reading these lyrics and I was watching your interview with Keefe over at Ghost Cult, and like thinking to myself, God damn, this shit's kind of real. Like, how much of reality was seeping into this story?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would say, well, I mean, during that period where, you know, again, I was sent that music, and I sort of came up with that title, came up with this kind of basic outline of a narrative. There was a lot of talk that very week in the press about, you know, going to Mars, and, you know, there are these people and companies that seem really, you know, driven to make that happen. And there was at that week, there was a lot of talk about that very thing. I think there might have been some rocket launches recently or something, but whatever, it's like it was in the news, and it had been in the news for a while. It still kind of is a thing that stays in the news now for all the reasons you just said. And it's so it was there. And I just sort of thought, well, what's that trip actually going to be like for the first civilians who make it? You know what I mean? Who take that trip? You're not an astronaut. You're not a trained pilot. You're not military personnel. You're not infrastructure personnel. Like, you're not there trying to build the landing pad or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're just a regular person, you know, in this extraordinary situation what could that be like? And then of course there's the thing of, and what if something goes wrong on the trip?
Yeah.
So
and will that regular person be able to fix the problem?
Well,
right?
you wouldn't, you have no control. It's more like, how do you react emotionally to this situation that's so far out of your depth, so yeah, that's kind of where it landed, and it's cool. It was neat, and I love the fact that the music was kind of cinematic in scope. Anyway, I'd had a similar experience writing for the Giraffe Tongue Orchestra, and all that music that Brent Hines and Ben Weinman sent. It was like, geez, some of it's sort of like really challenging, insanely odd time signatures, or just extreme mood swings, or a lot of like so much information that sometimes where you're like, oh, where do I get a word in edgewise, and then other things were atmospheric and other, so it just ran the gamut of emotions and sonics, but what was as challenging as it was a welcome challenge, because I got to put on all these hats and write all these different scenarios and all these different roles and then perform them. And it was a similar thing with this Black Horizon. It was like, oh wow, you got these virtuoso musicians and they send you this thing that goes to all these different places within the same sort of span of 5 minutes or whatever. Okay, let's see what I can do with this. It's a cool thing, really cool thing as a writer and as a singer. Yeah.
You told Keefe over at Ghost Cult magazine that you looked at writing lyrics for Black Horizon almost like a role in a movie. You write the role and you act the role, right? Is that how you've always approached lyrical writing, or does it kind of change between projects? Like, is Comes With the Fall, Alice, solo record, One Alone, now Metal Allegiance? What do you think?
I would say that the process for Black Horizon and Giraffe Tongue Orchestra is a bit different from Comes With the Fall or even Alice or anything I've done on my own. Just because, again, there's that thing of you're getting sent music that is to some degree or another, it's pretty well realized.
Yeah.
And so you're reacting much more than when you're creating the music as well. When I'm in it for alone for something like Comes With the Fall or solo work or something like that, or even some of the Alice things, it's really like, in the best case scenarios, you get everything dropping out of the sky like it's a finished record playing in your mind that then you just have to bring to life. That is when it's awesome. It doesn't always happen that quickly or easily, but that's the idea. Like, maybe I get a fragment of something that's musical and lyrical at the same time, and then I just have to follow the thread. But with something like this, it's more like oh, okay. You have to kind of listen, take it in, process, and then it's like, what can I,
it's more of a journey.
This
right?
part. Well, they're just different kinds of journeys. Because again, one's a bit more reactive. One is more like, oh, I'm getting this thing, and I have to like, what is this territory? Like, it's like landing in a foreign country and you just go, oh, wow. Like, how do I read those signs? Like, what, is there anybody I can ask directions? Like, what?
But is that fun to have to be challenged a little bit, that you pushed in an awkward direction?
I dig it. It's like I said, it was a welcome challenge. And not a role that I get to play all the time. You know what I mean? Because most of the time it is just kind of like, oh man, that's a cool set of changes. Oh man, I got this line, and it's just me kind of working through my own stuff, right? And this is more like, wow, like I never would write anything like that musically. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not where I kind of live, but it's cool that there are these people that do that. You know what I mean? and now I have to inhabit this landscape. This is, okay, cool. Right on. Like, where do I check in? It's like, no, it's great. It's great.
I want to focus in on authenticity in the art that you guys are creating. When you guys write alone, the voice in the room is just yours. But when you collaborate, like suddenly there's a second or third musical identity that's present with you. So how do you protect your own instincts while still being open enough to let the song become something bigger than even you imagined? Mark, you talked about Alex changing what you did.
Yeah, I welcome it. I mean, I love it. The MH song "Let Darkness Fall." That was a completely written 100% song musically. I brought to the table for MA. Came out nothing like I brought it to the table. It was the middle, like the flamenco bass shit where I'm going off, and Alex is doing this acoustic shit. That was the intro, right? So it's a perfect example of being open to others' ideas. At least for me, as especially on the songwriting side, I know now when I go in with music, riffs, full songs, lyrics, whatever it might be, I know what I enter with is not what I'm going to be exiting with.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, I love it. I think it's cool, man, to hear other people's takes on what you're presenting them. And I'll do the same thing with, especially Alex or whomever, when we're writing or whatever we're doing. It's like, if I'm coming up with a riff, he'll go, why don't you take why don't you move that finger just slightly? Let's make it a diminished minor instead of the minor. And it's like, oh, okay, and then we'll play it. And it's like, yep, you're right. It sounds better. So it's just, as long as you're open to that. And I think, that's where the creativity comes from.
Do you both find that like collaboration tends to sharpen your instincts or like challenge them in ways that can feel uncomfortable at first?
It's both sometimes, I mean, like with Alice, it's, run the gamut from a song like Last of My Kind. Cantrell had that music, and I went over to his house and wrote that entire lyric and sang it in a, demo form in about an hour and a half. Like sometimes things just go that quickly, where we just looked at each other, we listened back to it. He was watching football, in the living room, and I was just in this little side room kind of working, and we just listened back and went, oh yeah, cool. Shook hands. That was that.
Okay.
See ya.
And then there's other things, like there's the first thing that we put out, it was a thing called Looking in View. Yeah. And that was more like this sort of weird hodgepodge of all these different, like he originally had that riff that went jump, 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 jump. And I came into rehearsal one day going like na 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 na, so I had that whole melody, and I had a few words, but they were kind of just, it was more like placeholder words, and so
that's all you need. You get Yellow Ledbetter out of that. Just
well, right, yeah. Well, he took a few of my placeholder words, and then he added some more words, and then. I mean, again, that song came together in a piecemeal kind of a way, because that riff at the end, that down 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 down, that whole bit, I came up with that backstage in Europe somewhere on the first tour that we did of Europe back in 2006. We were in like Spain somewhere or something, and we had a little, guitar amp set up backstage. It was just kind of one of these weird venues. It's not really supposed to be a musical venue, and so the backstage was kind of strange, and like a lot of cement and stone and old ghosts and things. And we had a guitar and amp set up, and I was just playing that. I was just playing it over and over again, and Cantrell came in like, he just came in like, like we're mouthing stuff to each other, and it's like,
those are the best moments. You just stumble.
And then he learned it, and then he learned it, and it was, But anyway, and so that ended up. Fast forward to a year and a half later or whatever, that ends up getting grafted onto this thing that had jump, 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 and all the other. So that song was one of those. It took some time, and there were all these different pieces that got added over time, and but yeah, I mean, there's all different ways that it can happen, and and some of them are more seamless than others, right? And obviously, there's some times where it can be more uncomfortable or combative or weird in some way, and then there's other times where it's just like, hell yeah, and sometimes the hell yeah can take a year or something. It's like, yeah, you know what, yeah. Hell yeah!
Case in point, man. Case in point is Black Horizon. That song.
Oh, right. You guys said you wrote that thing a long time ago,
That's sad.
And it
was. Yeah, it's not. We had other vocalists in mind. I was like, nah,
right. Not ready for prime time just yet.
I was like, nah, and I was like, I'd rather shelve it than put somebody who I don't think could do it justice, at least here. But it's case in point. Sometimes things they need to simmer at the bottom of that stew pot, right? And you just let it boil over. It's like,
do you want to be challenged though? Like when you think, like you mentioned football, like Brady Belichick, there's something about loggerhead sometimes that brings out the best, sharpens, right? Iron sharpens iron. In music, I've found that that's not always the case. I feel like sometimes when artists are butting heads within a band, it causes the dissolution of a band. But at other times, I mean, is there space, bandwidth for that?
It's a tough thing because songwriting is a very, very intimate act.
That is true,
and it really is like with a team sport. It's much more like. It's so much more cut and dried. It's just like, look, we got to get that ball from here to there. We got this much time to do it, and you're just strategizing, and it's much easier for everyone to unite around kind of, we all are very clear about what the goal is, it's literally right there, 50 yards away. We got to do, but with songwriting, it's much more like your emotions and your deepest secrets, or you're trying to pull things out of the air, like this thing that you're trying to make something out of nothing. You're pulling signals out of the air like an antenna, and so there's a lot more fragility to that.
Yeah,
at least when it's really honest and happening. I mean, obviously there's a form of songwriting that's much more of a, job, and, people show up and it's like, we have writing dates or whatever they call them, that's a different thing. And that's fine too. I respect that craft, the Brill building or the Nashville thing or whatever. That's cool. And I think it's good as a writer to be able to work in different ways, including that way. Right. But when you're talking about the kind of stuff that I do most of the time, that's really a very personal thing. Or the kind of, obviously like, a band like Comes With the Fall or Alice in Chains, you're on a really, really singular kind of a path there. And everything has to feel right for it to even exist. You know what I mean? Like, and so
you just described the essence of Mark Menghi.
But I mean, again, I feel like people who've done it for a long time, they kind of get to know what they need and what what it needs to be in order to be right and all that. But it's a tough thing. So when you talk about like knocking heads or there's a point where that can be really constructive and it can add to the whole, but then it can very easily tip over into a negative thing where you feel like your voice is cut off, or your signal line to whatever it is that gives you the input you need, is cut off. And it's like, because I can't even, it can feel like, oh, I can't even be real in this room. You know what I mean? Like
what do you do then? What do you do?
Leave? I don't know. I mean, there's different ways to respond to that. But I just mean like, and it depends on what your ultimate objective is for that for what's going on in that room. Like if what's going on in that room is more of like a craft session of like, we need 10 songs by day after tomorrow, and so and so needs this, she's in the studio next week, and we got to get this happening. She's asking for songs, we got to give her some. That's a different kind of a thing. But like when it's a band, that's why it leads to the dissolution of a band when it goes really bad, because the people feel like they can't even be themselves around their bandmates anymore. Right. Maybe it started out good, but then it morphs into something they can't deal with anymore.
It's messaging too, right? So, and I could speak to this on a lyrical standpoint. If you're singing about a certain subject matter, and whether it's a bandmate might not agree with what you're singing about, and they don't want to get behind that. They don't want to be playing guitar, or drums, whatever they're playing, behind a message that you don't necessarily agree with. Fortunately, I've never been in that position, and especially writing lyrics for all these different singers that I've written lyrics for.
And that's a skill unto itself, my friend.
Yeah.
Right. And it was always a fear of mine. What if they don't want to sing about, they're putting their voice behind this subject matter? They might say, well, fuck you, man. I'm not singing that. Or it's never happened, knock on wood. But there, so, at least for me, and I can only speak for me, is a lot of the subject matters I wrote about are personal experiences. They're things that has happened to me. And, I would say 90% of them. There's a few songs that have nothing to do with anything. There's still experiences. Maybe it didn't happen to me personally. So I found it easier for vocalists to I don't want to say pretend, but to put their best energy forward on a song like that, where it's a subject matter that happened to a personal person, rather than if you're going political, you go and whether it's the right or the left, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican. Once you start getting in those worlds, man, it's just like I'm kind of because again, when you're writing, you have to have a like-minded group of individuals who all believe in the same thing in order to go that realm.
You've both worked with a lot of incredibly passionate and brilliant musicians, including each other, I would say. Is there something you're able to access emotionally in a collaborative environment that you just can't do when you're writing by yourself? Or maybe vice versa?
Yeah, maybe. That's possible. Because, again, I'd look at something like Giraffe Tongue Orchestra, or I look at this song that we did, Black Horizon. Again, I wouldn't write music like that in most cases. You know what I mean? Like, it's not where I tend to land with things. And so I'm getting a completely different jumping off point than I normally would have, in order to write lyrics to and melodies and also a different jumping off point, a different launch pad from which to perform, you know what I mean? Because you're gonna sing differently depending on what you're responding to, you know what I mean? So it's, I would say that it absolutely can bring out things that normally wouldn't be brought out, because in a case as cut and dried as Black Horizon, that is never something I would have self-generated, musically speaking. So
it makes two of us.
Yeah. Right. So and so that's a clear-cut case of this is bringing out something different, for this group of people, and that's and that's great.
What happens when that leads to a roadblock, though? Like when you're writing music with others, especially people maybe who have big egos, not saying either one of you do, there will inevitably be moments where one of those collaborators says, this isn't really working for me. Like, how do you maintain that honesty without damaging that creative momentum?
Yeah, that can be tough. A lot of times those are songs that end up getting maybe shelved, they just don't come out or something, or there's all different, there's all different forms that all different kinds of outcomes that can result from that sort of a thing. But you really try to kind of not get there if possible, and also that's where writing on your own can be very helpful, because it's like you have your own kind of escape hatch or a pressure valve or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times with my own stuff, like an album like Comes With the Fall, Beyond the Last Light, that was mostly written, like the music may have been completed to a large extent, but most of the lyrics, about 70% of the lyrics, were written in the studio, which I'd never done before. And I had to channel stuff on the spot in the moment. It's like, okay, well, maybe some of these tunes had working titles, and I was like, oh, pull up such and such, you know what I mean? And I would just pace around the studio and just kind of pull things out of the air and just kind of, but what ends up happening then is when the signal can be that pure, and when you can open up the avenues, the channels to pulling stuff out of the air in such a pure way, you can get some amazing results doing that. Like I was responding to my environment, what was going on. There's a lot of things that come from your subconscious that you don't even understand, know? And that, to me, it's almost like it's about as close as I've ever been from a writer standpoint to like an ecstatic experience, because you get into a state of mind that is just, it's an elevated state, and the signal's really clear, and there's no time for any nonsense. There's no time for any crafty kind of stuff. Because sometimes if you've been doing it a long time, writing for other people and writing in all these different kinds of situations, you can get into a craft thing. I'm like, oh, we need 2 minutes, 50 seconds. We need a double chorus here, like all that kind of stuff.
A, B, C, A, B. There you go.
Right. And that's fine. I'm just saying guardrails are fine. But I'm just saying, like, for what I'm talking about with like Beyond the Last Light, that was more of like that was more of a purely spiritual thing. Mm. And I'm not worried about anything else because I'm the producer on the session. It's my record. I mean, you can allow yourself that kind of leeway and just let it all happen. And the rest about whatever anybody else is going to think about it is a distant afterthought. And so I feel like when you have those kinds of experiences, it can help when you're in a tough situation, maybe with a collaborator, because you can always sort of go like, well, look, I have my craft to rely on. I have my instincts to rely on. And at the end of the day, this too shall pass. You know what I mean? Like whether we end up finishing this song or whether I like it or whether we like it or whether it ever comes out, even if we finish it or whatever happens. It's like, look, eventually there's going to be tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And eventually I'm going to get back to my own thing where I'm going to try to get into like a purely spiritual thing. Like my life is not my working life, and my spiritual life is not limited to this one tough day. You know what I mean?
That's a healthy way of thinking about it, William.
Well, to add to what William said, in writing in your environment and giving and taking what the environment's giving you, it's the same. And I don't know if William's writing lyrics for Jerry or whatnot and Alice, but for me, when I'm writing lyrics for other people, like if you take someone like Troy Sanders, he's a completely different vocalist than, say, fucking Chuck Billy, and then Chuck Billy's completely different from Phil Anselmo, who's different from Max Cavalera, it's just, when you take all that, it's just like, all right, how does Chuck sing? How does Philip sing? How does he pronounce his words at the end of verses? What are the grammatical, deficiencies, if there are any in their singing? What are the, if you take a vowel or a consonant, like I start going crazy because I'm thinking, all right,
Phil
Bobby
never rolls his R's.
Right? Yeah, no.
And what if they say no to the song, and then you got to rewrite it for somebody else because they say words differently?
It's happened. Like, Bobby Blitz, right? I love him to death. He's from Overkill, from the great state of New Jersey, right here, my next door neighbor. If you listen to the way Bobby sings, he has that New Jersey, New York thing, whatever that thing is, right? And when I was writing lyrics for a song for him, he goes, no, I would never say a word like that. I'm like, huh? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I gotta
How
change
would you say it?
He's like, I gotta change that word to this word because this is the word I would use in place of that word. Oh. I'm like, aha, got it. That was really my first kind of like, I need to start thinking about all this shit differently now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, but again, it's taking in that environment, taking in the personality or personalities. And,
so if you're writing a song for William to sing, like what are those little quirks that you're thinking about right now?
I won't write a song for William to sing.
Good answer.
William, it's like I said earlier, it's nice not writing lyrics. At the point, I love writing lyrics, so I got fucking books full of them. But in this particular case with Black Horizon, MA needed a change, and not only artistically in our artistic direction on what you see visually, but lyrically, messaging. It was, for me, at least in my brain, it needed a 180, fucking complete 180 overhaul. Hence, I believe William delivered that, beautifully.
Talking about messaging, man, music that resonates deeply with listeners, I think it usually comes from a vulnerable place. And a lot of our favorite artists, and we talked about this before, Mark, be it Cornell or Vedder or Staley, they have nailed this because they decided to showcase their vulnerability as strength. Yeah. And you think about the 80s or the late 90s or even in the last decade or so, many people look at vulnerability as weakness, or that's how it's portrayed in the mainstream, right? What do you guys make of this dichotomy, and how do you articulate your own vulnerability in your music?
That's bullshit. People look at vulnerability as weakness. I don't.
People do.
I don't follow those people. Then
good for you.
That's a world I don't want to live in, man. Because everybody is vulnerable. Every single person on this planet is vulnerable in one way. Whether they decide to show it or not is another thing. And at least for me, I mean, you go on whatever those lyric websites are, or you go to MA world and read the lyrics, man, I'm fucking putting my heart out there.
You allow yourself to see it first,
and I allow myself,
right?
Because for me, being vulnerable and writing those lyrics was a coping mechanism. It was a way to express myself without doing stupid fucking shit, right? And I don't want to go there, but it was a way just to kind of self-diagnose myself, going, I need to get this out because it's not healthy. Yeah. So people who hold in vulnerability, whether it's going, to talk to somebody, getting mental health. It's one of the reasons why I started King Ultramega, was how can I help people,
right?
Who are vulnerable, who don't know how to share that, who don't have anyone to talk to. That was one of the reasons why I decided to, partner with Music Cares, to help, and for all those people who are vulnerable. Yeah. So I don't mix well with those people who bash on it or who think of it as
that's
a weakness.
That's where we get along, Mark, because we feel the same way. But I think about, the Biscuits of the world, or, maybe modern politics in some way. And it's like, no, I don't. William, what do you think about that?
I think that the whole beauty of being able to play and write music, the entire, or at least a large part of the reason for doing it, is to say things that you can't say through any other medium. And, so there are things that maybe you wouldn't be able to say to your significant other or to your parents or to your friend or whatever, but you can say it in this tune, you know what I mean? And or maybe there's things you're grappling with within yourself that you might not even be able to bring yourself to say to a therapist or something, if you were even going that route, right?
Yeah.
Therapy. But you could say it in a tune, you know, and that's why I was saying when I've been fortunate enough to create an environment for myself where the channel is so like the channel and the signal are so pure that I'm just really pulling stuff that's just like I don't even know where this is coming from, and I don't even care right now. This is what I have to, this is what's happening, and I surrender to it because we're all frequencies, right? And every single thing around us has a frequency, the table, the chair, the whatever, the cat, the dog, you, everyone you know. And when you get into a certain kind of alignment where the frequency is vibrating at such a level, you feel the truth. It's undeniable. When you have those kinds of experiences as a writer, or if you're fortunate enough to be in a studio and get to capture that, like, there is no better way of existing, in my view. And that goes for anyone in any endeavor. There's people who maybe express that through dance, or people who express it through athletics, or people who express it through mathematics or science, whatever you're doing, writing poetry and literature and so. Yeah. But it's like when you're at that level of elevation, you absolutely know it. And
there's clarity, right? That comes with that.
Yeah. And there is, so, I mean, whether we use a word like vulnerable or whatever, or humble, or whatever word you want to use to describe that state of existence, or, ecstatic, that's another word. All of those words go part of the way to describing it, but none of them go all the way in describing it. And so I don't even understand this thing of music is vulnerability. You know what I'm saying? Like the music is worth listening to. It is that. John Coltrane was talking to God as he saw God with A Love Supreme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hendrix is communicating in a freaking multi-dimensional, galactic level without even having to say a word. It's just coming through the guitar. And if there's words as well, then that's kind of like, that's a compliment. But he's able to do it just sonically he's able to do it. And the same goes with any song. I mean, Joni Mitchell, it's like she was saying stuff in some of her early songs where it's just like people are like, why are you going to be that confessional? Do you really have to go there, like with all the details of the breakup and this and that and whatever? And but people they've made whole careers out of one Joni Mitchell song because the truth of whatever she was doing at that time was so real deal to her that it's going to resonate across the ages. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't understand anything about like questioning vulnerability. It's like saying like it's sort of like saying like, well, then let's just turn it all over to AI. Then what I mean? Yeah. Like, why not? Anybody who would say something against
you just fucking open up that door, man. You just open up that AI door. Well, man.
but because I don't even acknowledge it unless I'm confronted with it in some way that I can then just turn around and go in the other direction. You know what I mean? Like I don't even see it as a real. I know it's a real thing, and I know the technology is a real thing, and I know we'll all have to contend with it in every facet of life. But where it comes to music, I just sort of am like, look, and I only brought it up now to say that to question or denigrate what we're calling vulnerability in music is to say it's essentially to me the same as saying, well, then just let a robot handle it, let a machine handle it. You know what I mean?
So to your point, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
hear something funny, and this is probably information I shouldn't divulge, but I will because it's on the subject.
But this is what you do, Mark.
I'm working on a King Ultramega song right now, and one of the engineers, I told the engineer, I want violins and cellos and xylophones, and they're like, yeah, we could just AI that. I was like, you fucking get out. I was like, get out. I was like, no. We're not AIing that. We are getting real violin players. We're gonna find real cello players. And to me, that's the difference, because you can take, I don't want to say it's lazy. It's, you're not using your brain. You're not using that creative side of your brain when you're going AI when creating music.
Yeah. And you're not using your spirit.
Yeah.
There is no spirit there. There's code there. Yeah. There's no channeling anything. There's no.
It's an approximation of what the code thinks is human, but isn't.
There's no connection to the eternal at all, in my view. Not at least not the way I see the eternal. Like there's no there. You know, and so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what people are doing now, though. If you,
I've heard.
they'll defer to the easier. I don't want to say cheaper because it's costs less money, but it's easier. You know, in this particular case, I called up a music teacher I know who's a music chair at a local high school here. I was like, hey man, can I have 3 of your best violin players and 2 cello players? We'll sign whatever they need to sign, this, that, and the other thing. We brought them to the studio and it came out awesome. I mean, it was awesome just to see, they're kids too. They're
and how excited are they to be on a track like this in a proper studio?
Extremely excited.
That's the ripple effect, right? So now that music lives on in different ways.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, and I'm in there like the fucking mad guy, like,
and so not only did you give those kids an experience they will never forget, but also you've got the human touch on the strings, you've got all the little tiny imperfections that come with that, and you're not going to get that through a piece of code. You're just not, that's part of what makes everything worth listening to, right? I mean, you're going to hear that's a person. You're going to hear, maybe they slid a little flat. That one kid slid a little flat on the thing, but you know what? Hey,
that's cool, man.
That's human.
It's human.
And I don't know. It could really go down a rabbit hole.
When music's too perfect, it doesn't sit well with me personally. It has to have a little bit of like. It can't be like that's why. Anyways, that's a whole.
Well, we did this one interview. William and I did this interview with these KISS folks, these KISS people, all right? And I know everyone's a KISS fan, and I bring this up because if you look at KISS is a live record. That's all re-recorded to perfection, right? So that I ask people, would you prefer a live re-recorded? Without the imperfections and without the ace fuck ups and without the ace, to me, I love that. I want to hear Jimmy Page fucking up and hitting the wrong note. I want to hear Ace Frehley hitting the wrong note. I don't want a band to go in and re-record live records where if you go to like, I don't know, Song Remains the Same and, even this Rush's Exit Stage Left, some of those records are as they're presented, or there's a live Police record where you hear, I don't know what planet Andy Summers is on, and I don't know what the fuck song he was playing to, but it was awesome. It was clearly not the intended song, but it was like, that's the stuff I like. I like those imperfections as a musician, and I don't want to call that AI. It's you're trying to fix what you performed in a live setting. You're trying to make that perfect like a studio record. You want
to be you on your best day for every song. You know what I mean? Even though it's supposed to be a live record. And I live records that I've done or been a part of, I've never done any re-recording. but I understand it in the case of someone like Kiss, struggling band coming up, they haven't broken through yet. They put out 3 records. The record label's saying, hey, look, it's getting kind of, we may have to rethink here if this next one doesn't do something, and they took a big risk making their next thing a live record. And you just, I get it.
It's awesome. Then what's the excuse for a live 2 then?
Well, I mean, here's my thing on that. As a 10-year-old kid, I took it in as a purely, like, you're so impressionable, and again, the word pure comes up because you're very innocent, and it's like I'm just hearing the excitement. So I actually Kiss Alive and Alive 2 for me were like an introduction to the fact that live music was so exciting. You know what I mean? Like, because I hadn't, I'd gone to a few concerts at 10 years old, but it was mostly stuff that maybe my mother wanted to see, and she had to bring me along. You know what I mean? So it's like, Melba Moore at the Carter Barron or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's cool, but this was more like my own thing for me, and I was like, wow, this can really be this transformative thing where you're communicating with the audience, and Paul's stage raps, and wow, and the call and response, oh wow, and. So I'm like, in that case, when I found out years later that, okay, they did some doctoring on that, I was like, oh, man. But then, I'm also kind of like, well, but look at what they were going through at that time. And it's still them. It's not a machine.
That's true.
It's still them. It's still them. And it's still Eddie Kramer at the board, you know what I mean, who's done everything cool. And it's still like, you're still like ripping through it in a way that you wouldn't if it was a pure studio record. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you might be fixing some things, taking part of a performance, patching this bit in that wasn't so good, or you might even be re-singing the whole thing, but you're still going to do it in a different way than you would if you're making your next studio record. You're trying to be a little bit more in the moment, and I can respect that, and especially again under their circumstances. It's like, look, either this record makes it, or you guys are going back to driving a cab or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, New York City cab drivers, man.
It's like you're going back to teaching school. You're going to have to do whatever. And at the end of the day, the end result in that case to me was pretty badass enough to go like, oh, all right, I'll take it for what it is. I'll take it in the spirit that it's because you hear the ambition, you hear the struggle, you hear the humanity, right? And a show like Kiss's show, like I have actually right over here behind me, I have the box set of Alive, since we're talking about it. And it's like, so it has all the shows unedited, like the unfixed stuff, right? And you listen to it and you're going like, yeah, this is cool, this is exciting, and it's definitely real deal. You hear that for sure, but it's like, you know what? At the end of the day, like, I love the Alive record as it is. Like, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't say that for everything, but I would in that case.
Well, let me ask you. Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought, Wayne.
But for the most part, I'm 100% with you. Like, live records should be live records, and the Comes with the Fall live record, there's no fixing because I couldn't afford it.
When I think about live music and the shows that I've seen, and obviously I've never been on stage performing for an audience, but I'm living in the same era you are, where people are feeling, I think, on a lot of levels, just increasingly isolated, even while being constantly connected. And that's kind of a weird irony, you know what I mean? But live music, somehow it still creates these moments of shared humanity. And I'm curious when and I know what that feels like, being on the floor, looking around, you know what I mean? And just feeling that. But I don't know what it feels like on your side. So have you ever witnessed from the stage a moment where you just understand, or remind you why music still matters?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Literally hundreds of times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, there's nothing like that. There isn't anything else, there's nothing quite like that. It is a unique thing, and it's a real blessing to be on that side of it, you know, where you are the one kind of initiating that whole thing, that energy chain, because that's what it's like, a feedback loop. You know, you give out, they give back, you give back more, they give back more. It really does. It's a flywheel. And on nights where everything's clicking, again, it gets you into a different form of that same kind of ecstatic state I was talking about, like where you really feel the frequencies are aligning in a way that it's just like, oh my God, I can't, this isn't even like, it's almost like you're a witness to it rather than a participant. It's almost like you can step out of your body and just go, like, whoa, like what, you know, while it's happening. And, for me, there have been enormous like memory gaps in that stuff. 'Cause it's like you go into it and you come out of it and it's just like, I don't even know what happened there. I just know that was pretty cool. And you can still hear him screaming. And I'm in the car, we're pulling away. They're still screaming. I'm like, I don't even know what just happened. Like,
and 2 hours went by like that. You didn't even think about it.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, and then there's times when, you know, you're not feeling your best when you come on and you know, you get out there and it's like, all right, you know, and that's where the stagecraft thing comes in, and you're just kind of like, you know what to do, you know how to get from A to B, you know how to pace yourself, you know all the things. But then something will happen in early on in a show like that just kicks it into another gear. And whatever you felt when you came on, you are a different person now. And this whole thing, now you've locked into that channel I'm talking about, where it's just like, okay, yeah, just hold on, strap in. Like, it's, you know, it's, you're riding this thing, you're riding this wave just like they are, you know? And, I mean, it's unbelievable, man. When it's really clicking, it's unbelievable. Like, I can think of shows in South America that Alice in Chains has done where I'm just like, I don't even like it. Some of them got documented or something, and I've been able to see like recordings of them back. You know what I mean? Like Rock in Rio or something like that, where it's, you know, it's a televised event for the whole country. You know, or we did another one the first time in Brazil. We did a thing called the SWU festival. I think it was called. Starts with U is what they call it. I don't know what it was about, but the whole thing is, I didn't know that one was being documented in any way. We went on, and there's 70,000 people. You just go out and you do your thing. And I remember it was raining. And of course, like, the South American audiences are the most incredible audiences in the world. So I remember like going out and just feeling like one of those gigs where it's like, wow, like you're just being pulled through this wormhole of awesomeness. And I'm just going like, I don't even, wow, you know. I do remember, I remember one moment does crystallize in my mind of the actual show on stage. And it started raining, and normally I'm just like, oh no, you know, it's the worst, because, you know, hazard, electricity, like everything. It's just, you know, it's everything. You know, oh no. But I remember on that one, I was like, okay, rain, work it in. You know what I mean? And there was this
slicking the hair back.
Okay. So the way I did it, there was this part of the stage where, you know, I like to go sometimes where you're not supposed to go, right? I mean, especially when there's a big audience and you want to make everybody feel seen. You want to, literally reach the people on the side stands or the upper decks or whatever. So I went over into this spot where it was literal, like it was the PA. I was like on the PA cabinets, you know, and they had tarp on them, and the tarp had like sunken in to parts of the cabinet that were sunken in, you know what I mean? And there were pools of water there, literal pools of water.
What did you do, William?
I remember stepping through those pools of water because I was like, I don't care. We're going to have this moment. If I have to die, we're going to have this moment. And I went over into the pools of water. I'm standing on like the subs or whatever. And like, I pulled a full on. I remember
you
this
puddle
moment.
jumped like a 5-year-old, didn't you?
Well, I did that, but then I pulled an even crazier thing for me, where I did the Michael Jackson, Diana Ross thing. I did that. You know what I mean? Like I was like, man, because I remember when I was a kid, Diana Ross in Central Park, and it was this show where it rained, it was torrential rain. I remember watching the broadcast and like going like, man, Diana's just in the rain, and like she wants to be perfect and put together all the time. So for this diva to be in the rain and just embrace it, you know what I mean? Like she's just embraced it and worked it in. I was like, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm just going to embrace this and work it in, And I did the whole thing, just let it rain on me, and the crowd was going, It was one of those times where, like, yeah, I'll never forget it, man. And
we all have a Diana Ross moment once in our lifetime.
You know what I'm saying? It's if you can, it's worth doing. I got to tell you from experience, it was worth doing. And then the next day I went out, and that's when I really found out that the show had been televised to the whole nation. Didn't know that before that. I saw cameras on the little wires, like in football where they got the cameras on the wires.
But that could be the Jumbotron, board.
I thought that was just Jumbotron. And I was like, oh no, this is this thing. Because I went out with a friend of mine who was living down there at the time. And we went around to different places he wanted to show me and things. And it was the craziest thing. Like we sat at this one corner bar for like a good 30, 40 minutes. We've been served. We were, it was that indoor, outdoor kind of thing. So we're kind of on the street corner, chilling, eating, drinking. And then all of a sudden, the guy who'd been serving us the whole time, he just suddenly kind of comes over like real down low, and he was like, great gig, man. And and then as if on cue, his whole family comes out of the kitchen, wherever else they've been. And so they all want stuff. They all want pictures and stuff. Then all of a sudden, people start coming off the street.
Oh my God!
And they were like, DuVall, and like it turned into a whole thing. And so I don't know. It's just one of these things where gigs like that, you do unleash something. And that time, I got to see the after effect among the people. You know what I mean? Rare gift, because you don't usually you do it, you're gone. You don't know, have any connection to it anymore. And this was one time where I really got to feel it. And that show and shows like that, I wouldn't even believe them if I didn't get to either watch a recording of it later or have the experience I had the day after that first one, where you feel the people and what they got out of it. You know what I mean? Extraordinary. It's just extraordinary.
Well,
South American fans will let you know.
Well, it's funny. When MA played Rock in Rio, this is 21, 22. It was after the pandemic. Hearing all those people sing back MA original songs, it was like, whoa. It was like, and it wasn't like 10,000 people. I don't even know. It was a lot. I mean,
it's like massive. The whole country comes to Rock in Rio. Like it's the thing. Yeah.
But for them to know those lyrics and
they sing the riffs back.
Yeah, and
they sing riffs back. They'll sing like melody lines and guitar melodies.
It's crazy because as a songwriter, knowing where that music came from or knowing where those lyrics came from, and in my particular case, came from a dark period, to see it blossom. So it's like, wow, this is fucking...
The resonation is there.
Yeah. There's nothing like that. There's absolutely nothing like that. It's just like, holy shit, man, this is cool. And,
this is why we all want to be rock stars, guys, because there's that human connection amongst thousands upon thousands of people. And I gotta say, William, I saw you on the Degradation Trip tour at, I want to say it was Hammerstein Ballroom in like 02.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I was there.
Were you there?
I was there.
I was there. That might have been. Was Jerry opening for Nickelback? I can't remember. But anyways, that was the first William DuVall foray, and many times since then with Alice, and then most recently with Mark at Metal Allegiance in Anaheim, and just seeing how everybody just loves you and everybody else that was on stage. And I know that Doc was super stoked to play Last of My Kind. It's like one of his favorite songs. So just to see from like the side stage.
I got a behind the scenes story about that with Doc I'll share.
Okay. I just thought that was brilliant. And I just want to thank you guys for doing this, because it's like, I just love to hear the stories and to feel that connection through people who live it. So thank you for popping on here with us to talk about Metal Allegiance and
Absolutely.
we didn't even get the Rusty Cage, but Rusty Cage is fucking amazing. So go ahead, listen to that if you haven't already. But thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah, right on, dude. Yeah, thank you for having us, for sure.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Awesome.
What's your behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's the note we'll end on.
Oh yeah. So, remember back? It was like November, December when I was emailing out song lists, and the song list kept changing, and this and this and that and the other thing. Yeah. So Doc called me. He's like, "Dude," I'm like, "What's up, man?" He's like, "How do I get on Last of My Kind?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I want to play on it." I was like, "Well, can you do the Cantrell parts?" Right? It was like, can you sing on that? Because I had somebody else penned for that. And Doc literally gave me like a 20-minute dissertation on why he needed to not only play. I love it. I was like, dude, you had me in the first 12 seconds, but I just wanted to hear you ramble. And then, listen, Doc is, I love him, man. He's awesome, dude. Yeah. And he works his ass off to not only learn the music, but to do whatever songs he's doing justice. We used to MA songs too. We put him on the MA song as well because of that. He played, when we were planning to do Black Horizon live, it was Alex was like, well, who's going to play second guitar? I was like, it's Doc. It's because this happened after that. And I was like, if we know anyone's going to learn this perfectly, it's going to be Doc. Yeah. And Doc, seeing all his Twitter or Instagram videos post it was like, oh man, this is awesome. And
that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about.
He was terrific. He's a great guy. I'd never really worked with him before, and it was just such a great, cool thing to see how thrilled he was and to see how hard he worked. And
he's always happy. He's always happy. Always happy. Smiling, happy. Just a great dude to be around.
We see how hard the two of you work, and we were thrilled to have you on. So again, can't thank you enough for popping in.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
It's Mark Menghi and William DuVall, everybody.
Applause track. Let's get the Kiss Alive audience track in here. Maybe shout it out loud. Slide in. Yeah.
Once again, cannot thank Mark and William enough for their time. And I'm just so stoked on that conversation and how it starts with songs, and then it goes into the process, and then it goes into the people, and then it goes into the organism that is the music community as a whole. And holy shit. Wow.
It was great. We had a lot of streams to swim in, and we were able to dive in all of them with these two gents. So I really enjoyed that conversation, and I hope all of you watching and listening did as well.
And puddles. Don't forget the puddles.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Hopping with William DuVall.
With William DuVall. That's the episode title.
Everybody out there, thank you so much for making 300 episodes happen. If you're not listening or watching, these don't happen. And it's been quite a journey over these last 6 years, and we're going to keep on moving. And I think if you like conversations like these, there's going to be a hell of a lot more of them over the next weeks and months ahead. So strap in, as they say, put your buckle on, buckle up, as one singer would say, and enjoy this ride with us, because we love it, and we appreciate you guys for being here. So
absolutely. Here's to 300 more.
Wow. I'll have some gray in my beard. More gray in my beard, I should say, really. We'll be back with you next week. Way more stuff to come, guys. Appreciate you. And until next week, you've been listening to or watching
The State of Love and Trust.